To begin with, let me introduce myself. I'm Girish Chahane. I'm Director Art of the Skoda Prize, which in the 3 years of its existence has become the most prestigious and certainly is the largest art prize. To my left is Reena Saini Kalat, and to my right is Mansi Bhatt. At this point, I'd like to open it up to our 4 people sitting on their computers across India. Can I move to Rajiv? Samir! I'm horrible with names, I'm sorry. Finally I got Kamayani to laugh at least. She's been frowning at the camera all through. Samir, sorry buddy.
Hi. How important is it to have text, to be able to explain your work through words? Is it necessary, or should the art be self-explanatory? I mean, I've always been very confused about that. When people ask me about my work, I sort of blank out on this part, but I sort of pick up stories as each and every person has a separate experience with a painting. They tell you things, and you receive and you respond. So you pick up stories, and they become a painting, like a story of the painting itself. So for a person, I personally feel it's very difficult to sort of put it into words about what you are making or what you made. How difficult or how easy is it for you people? I mean, since you have had that sort of experience.
I think he's talking about readability, right?
Yeah, he's talking readability.
So I think that it's great if it's much more. I mean, every time you perform, it's much more written by different people, you know, or in one or the other way, it's been expressed or interacted among writers or whoever, the critic or even the viewers. It always helps, but as far as expression goes, I think the work connects, like how any work of art connects to its own audience. Yeah, I don't really write a kind of text for the performance or after the performance you do, because you have to sometimes as a part of your work, as a part of your project, and it does help. It does definitely help. But it's an extension to, I mean, in a way that you go more into what you did and what you're going to do next, because it's all interconnected, and that's how it helps also to the viewers and also to me as an artist.
As an artist, I think you want your audience to engage with the work, so whether it's and of course they carry back their own experiences. In case of a performance or any ephemeral work, I think the work lives, in fact, in the minds of the people who've been witness to a performance, and that's one of the things that is quite precious. I mean, what you carry back, what you really take away from the experience of the work, which not necessarily will be the same as what a person next to you will carry back. So I think that unique experience is something that is treasured in case of the experience of seeing or viewing or encountering a work of art.
Anjana, go ahead please.
Hi. Okay, I've studied sculpture, and my first question is for Reena. She uses space and material. So I just wanted to talk more about your process, because your work has a conceptual element to it, and then there's a material and physical element to it. So how do you go about building it?
Well, yes, actually, both. I think the visual aspect of the work I make is equally important as much as the intellectual aspect of it. I mean, I'd like works to be sort of emotionally charged in some ways, and of basically they're obviously out of one's own experiences that you make work, and you try to invest the work with as much in terms of in terms of processes. I would say that sometimes I have like an idea but doesn't get form for maybe even few years, where for a number of years I might be toying with how best it can be made. Even in case of the instances where I was speaking about, I've been making visits for a number of years now to a number of sites, but having had a lot of visual, photographic sort of data, it wasn't something that, I mean, information is not art, right? So you just collect a lot of data, you enjoy living with it, but it's not something that I wanted to present. And it took me a lot of time to think of how, because I was also looking at paintings from 19th century paintings on the same sites that I was visiting, and with all their inaccuracies, they were like sort of beautiful jewels that I was enjoying seeing. But to find the sort of, for both these to come together, to take form, meaning, and be something that is sort of emotionally charged, visually arresting, all of those qualities, it's always something you aspire for. You don't always know the results, and there's always uncertainty in the process. And there are many, many days when you just feel that you're not able to arrive. It's a constant struggle, and there are moments where you really feel fulfilled and satisfied with what you do. So, it is an ongoing process. Sometimes it takes years to finally arrive at something that you feel comes together meaningfully.
It's a great answer, I think. Anjana, you also had a question for Mansi?
Yes. Your performances, there's something that's done inside the studio with your photography crew, and there's something more spontaneous, live performances like the one you mentioned, where you buried yourself, or the one that you did at Court, where you like crawled across the set path. Can you talk more about the differences that you experience or the similarities when you're doing performance in two different kinds of settings?
Okay, like when I started, is what you said, disguise. So there was a huge gap in between, as I felt, there was a vacuum between arriving from here to here, and then there is still again a part of disguise and self in the coach performance also, but in that because it's a kind of travel again from coach gully to there's an abandoned maqbara at the backside in same Kirki extension area. So as you said, it was a crawl, and along with the two army men, like the gun army men, and again the guns were real. I wanted them to be real, and that was during the Commonwealth time. So I don't really see that there is I do something different in that, and I do something different here. It's about, as Reena said, sometimes you really don't get the things the way you present it, like the way you want to present it. It doesn't come across the time you're looking for, and then you do work, you keep on working, and sometimes you just come up with something you always looking for.
Thanks a lot for those questions, Anjana. And our final participant in this Google Hangout is Kamani from Bombay itself. Go ahead, Kamani, if you can hear me.
Hi, Reena, Girish, and Mansi. I'm not an artist. I'm a writer. My questions are more to do with the conceptual kind of foundation of the work. Reena, my question to you is, what I find very intriguing about your work is that, of course, you're dealing with lots of material, but the most insistent and persistent material that I find in your work is the usage of names and how you're using them and tweaking them according to the commitment and requirement of a particular work. Whether it's in Falling Fables, you've used missing persons, or in Kiosk, you've used names from different religious groups. So, in a sense, there's this desire to talk about history, and that's a very over-remembered kind of cultural product. And then on the other hand, you have all these names that no one knows, that are largely forgotten, very unremembered. So how do you think these two strains kind of interact and complicate each other?
Well, the idea of thinking of an individual in this sort of vast ocean of humanity was something that, where an individual often gets reduced to an anonymous statistic. It was something that was, very sort of in my mind when I was making synonyms, where you're almost scrolling through hundreds and hundreds of names to find that one missing person. And it, like Mansi said, it's so much to do with chance. Accidentally I sort of was led to seeing these lists of names of people who had gone missing. So usually these are out of official records. In this case, they were police records. And it was through a friend who was looking for someone who had gone missing, and which is how I was so struck by how in this day and age, you slip out of the radar of communication, and to think of someone who's gone missing. But from there on, it was again a conscious effort to think of, not really like, it was again finding some material that then I felt called for making work. That in the case of Closet Quarries, there were names of masons, but in case of Folic Fables, I did this large pillar. Again, when you speak of history, there's like there is a sense of incompleteness when you enter these ruins and your own relationship to these sites. They're sort of places that are so sort of charged that when I began making the sculptural pieces, they were supposed to be fragments, architectural fragments, and eventually I made this large fallen pillar which sort of metaphorically carried the weight of sort of these architectural monuments in a state of, but they're also then interwoven with other histories. So there's some poem fragments by poets such as Agha Shahid Ali, written on the city of Delhi, or on architecture and ruins. And so there are ideas of spatial narratives that one thinks of, and one doesn't really know how much of it translates in terms of what the viewer carries. But in terms of the experience, it was a large, like 40 feet long column made out of 30,000 rubber stamps that carried these addresses of missing monuments. So yes, there is some element of sort of memorializing these names, some element, these addresses, and
that's great. Yeah.
That sort of answers you. If there's anything else you want to further.
Yeah, if you want to add on to that or ask Mansi a question, go ahead, come in.
I have a question for Mansi. I was looking at all your work, and in fact the first work of yours I ever saw was last year, Bombay Boys. And from there I've kind of, gone on to other works that you've done. What I find very interesting is how playful and almost darkly comic a lot of your works are. So I just wanted to ask you, do you think art kind of brings a sense of, again, a sense of the playful, a sense of the alluding to political discourse?
It does. That for me it's not an intention, but it does, and it has to come. If it comes through the work, that would be, I think, the best way to come. And I think all my work has it speaks for its own sense of politics, you can say. So it does come with, I think, all of us who produce something in today's time. It comes. It's a part of, whether you say it or not, but it's a part of the work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Even the personal can be political. So
Yeah.
And
there's no
escaping
very
that.
blur kind of about it.
well, this has been a really interesting conversation, and really, for me, certainly the first time I'm participating in an experiment like this. I'd really like to thank the four of you who participated in this with us. I don't know how much you could really hear and how clearly. I think that we did a fairly good job given the constraints. I'd like to thank the two artists flanking me here, Reena and Mansi. Thanks so much. Reena just flown in and agreed to be part of this, though she just came in from abroad yesterday, and Mansi also has been really, really busy. So appreciate them taking time out for this Google Plus Hangout. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Girish.
Thank you.